Oh, I can't tell you what a thrill this is. I want to thank Terry and Charlotte Frank, everyone here at McGraw-Hill, and the judges, a few of whom I know, as Bob and Larry do, but many of whom I don't. I was so thrilled when I heard about this, I couldn't believe it. I thought it wasn't Terry, I thought it was a friend of mine playing a joke on me, but it was true. I want to thank Sue Levitt also for that wonderful film, who allowed us to be very silly, which I get to do and still think I'm doing good in the world, which is about as lucky as you can get. This award really means a special amount to me too, because it comes from a family publishing house, and of course I grew up in a family publishing family. My dad, Bennett Cerf, was actually a good friend of Harold McGraw, so to get an award from this group is extraordinarily touching to me, and it seems full circle, as of course does being here in the public library with the lions outside, which inspired so much of our TV show. It's just great. So thank you all very much. I need to thank too, of course, the real pioneers without whom I wouldn't even been able to conceive of a career like this. Joan Gans Cooney, who you saw in the film, and Lloyd Morrisett, who had the amazing idea that you could sell letters and numbers on TV and education about them, not just sell rice and drugs or whatever you were selling with commercials. What an incredibly revolutionary idea. And they took it even further thanks to Dr. Jerry Lesser at Harvard and a lot of wonderful educators like Dr. Gene Shaw, the late Gene Shaw, who was such an inspiring reading teacher, and a lot of people who are in this room like Bill Thiel and others, Marilyn Adams, Dorothy Strickland. A lot of these people have inspired our work right from the beginning. And Joan and Jerry realized that you didn't have to compromise to do educational TV. I think it's one of the most important ideas anyone ever had. Before Sesame Street, you might get a group of very creative people who wanted to do a, quote, educational show. They'd come up with some characters, they'd write something, and then a few days before it was time to finish the scripts, they'd call an educational advisor in to get a little bit of advice about how we could teach something. On the other hand, you might get educators who came up with a whole wonderful curriculum for what to teach, but they might not be great writers, and so things weren't as good as they could be, and they might not compete with the other shows that kids might choose to watch. So Jerry and Joan together and with those colleagues really did that, and it's amazing. And of course, without Jim Henson, nothing we all did would have mattered. The Muppets' brilliance, which made this work for parents as well as kids, and got parents and kids talking about what was on the show, is another thing we've tried to carry forward in all our work. So thanks for that. And I have to mention Dr. Seuss, too, because without Dr. Seuss, I'm not sure people would have had the idea that you could combine all this kind of creativity with education. Again, Jean Chol was at the very center of that. Her word list was given to Ted Geisel, Dr. Seuss, and instead of doing the kind of primer that most people wrote with those words, you saw a little parody of that in Sue Levitt's great video there. We do Chicken Jane on Between the Lines, but Ted wrote a literary classic with the exact same word list, The Cat in the Hat. And that really demonstrated that we could have fun with this kind of material. And that's what made, I think, all the work that we've all done since then in our field possible. So thanks to them. I want to mention a little more about Dr. Seuss in a moment, but I also want to thank some of my colleagues who are here in the room tonight. Norm Stiles, head writer of Sesame for years and of Lions, and my partner in Sirius. Michael Levine, who you saw on the film, who probably has done as much for education in this country as anyone I know. And if he hadn't believed in Lions when he was at Carnegie, we wouldn't be here tonight either. So thank you, Michael. And Paul Jacobs and Sarah Durkee, wonderful songwriters who are incredible colleagues of mine going way back. And Cleo's here too. She was born out of an idea from this library. So Cleo the Lion.
That's right. I'm actually in the back of the room, Chris, and I have a somewhat awkward cross.
Right.
I'm going to sing one of my favorite songs that you wrote for me.
Oh, that's amazing.
A cappella right now. Hello, you all you good people.
Well, go, please. I
It's a
can't
song
see
about
back
the
there.
letter W and the fact that unlike the letter D, which has duh in its name, and the letter M, which have in its name, the letter W does not have its sound in its name. So Chris wrote me a little song to sing that goes like this as I cover my awkward cross. I got W trouble, and I know what's to blame. It's because there's no W sound in W's name. I am wasted and woeful and wilted and tense. Excuse me. What's with W's W sound? It doesn't make sense. I'm so proud of you, Chris.
I'm so proud of you.
Mwah.
And Jennifer Barnhart, I'm pretty proud of you, too.
Aww.
Thank you.
You just keep talking. I'm going to sit right here.
Thank you. Thanks to both of you. By the way, Jen's going to be on Law & Order tomorrow night, so you need to watch that. Got to give her a little plug since she's helped me so much. So just a few things I actually want to say that are semi-serious about all this. One of those, of course, is that why television? After all, people think that TV is part of the problem, not part of the solution. But as you saw in that little video, we can do some things on TV that you just can't do in any other medium. In fact, I have a little story about Dr. Seuss, who I was lucky enough not only to be inspired by, but to work with. I got to work with him at Beginner Books. The fact that my dad ran his publishing company and my mom started Beginner Books with Ted had nothing to do. I earned that job. Nothing to do with how I got it.
Not at all.
But I was there, and he came running into the office one day, and he said, I have a great idea. Let's do an alphabet book with verbs. Everybody uses nouns in alphabet books, but no one's done one with verbs. This will be great. And everybody was very excited for about 5 minutes. And then we realized that it's almost impossible to do an alphabet book with verbs because you can't draw a picture of a verb very well. If you draw a picture of someone running, let's say it's a boy running, someone would look at that picture and say, that's a picture of a boy. And of course, someone reading aloud or a good teacher could fix that, but they're not always there. And so Ted never did that book. He did go on to do Dr. Seuss's ABC, which was wonderful, but it wasn't a verb book. But on TV, of course, we can animate verbs, and we can also pronounce letters and say what letter is which and switch things around. Or we can do the kind of blending thing you saw, where we had nights run together and be silly doing something instead of doing it with flashcards. And we can set things to music that would be only rote learning. For example, we have a group on Lions called the Vowels, who sing only vowel sounds. And when they want to make a whole word, they have to team up with Johnny Consonanti, who is a very low-life crooner from New Jersey, but they make wonderful words together
You can
nonetheless.
still catch him in Atlantic City, though, I think.
Yeah,
You
you can see Johnny any night down there taking credit for the Vowels' wonderful work. So a question you might think of, if you believe me, yes, I hope you will, that this stuff is useful, is after 40 years of Sesame Street, the electric company, shows that are every bit as educationally sound as the curricula in our schools, or sometimes even more so, and that kids love, why haven't any of these things been adopted in schools? I used to be kind of angry about that, but as you think about it, there's a real reason, which is we didn't have the technology to make this a very good idea. If a teacher wanted, for example, say that she was teaching the letter B to her kindergarten class today, and the B sound, how is she going to do that using Sesame Street? Is she going to turn on live TV and hope that the letter B comes up? Or maybe, luckily, there'd be a cassette with the letter B being taught. But there are 4,000 Sesame Street shows now, amazingly. Which one has the letter B in it? Is she going to go to the library before class, take out that cassette, rewind it to the right place, and hope that it doesn't get unrewound? There's no way that this stuff really could be used efficiently in the classroom.
That sounds way too complicated, Chris. You must have a solution.
I do!
Amazing!
Cleo, help me have
Tell
a solution.
us all about it.
Would you like to hear the solution?
Please, we're dying to know.
Well, now, of course, even the humble DVD changed all that because it's chapterized. It's chapterized. You can find something when you want it. And, of course, now we have the internet, we have network servers, we have mobile devices. There are all kinds of ways we could deliver this stuff.
You mean I can get this on my iPhone?
You could.
Wow!
You could. In theory, you could. But very importantly, we could now give teachers the tools to use this in class at just the right moment. And that leads me to another thought that I think is important, is that many people think to put education or put technology into schools, that we have to revolutionize everything. And some people like Larry and Bill are doing that brilliantly.
I know, I really want to go to high-tech high.
Me too.
Really, really do.
Me too. But for some schools and systems, that big a change, especially with standards and rather with all the testing requirements, that's hard. But now we can embed this kind of material in curricula that already exist. And I think that's the answer for evolution rather than revolution, where technology can really make a huge difference, and then we'll go from there. And of course, with whiteboards, we could now actually, if we tagged everything properly, could have just the right videos and also games and other things, because now ebooks, games, and everything are the same digitally. We could have those right there at the fingertips of a teacher who is teaching a lesson plan she's familiar with, but now we'd have all these extra things to make the class more fun. And we could even send those same things home using these technologies in the kind of literacy 360 idea that means we don't have to just do this in formal settings, but we can still present the right thing at the right time. That's what Michael Levine's work at the Cooney Center at Sesame is so much about, and I applaud him for it. So in closing, I just want to ask that all of you guys think about how maybe we could all work together to figure out some kind of meta-tagging system. So all this video, there's 40 years of it, plus all the new games and everything that are being designed, could be aggregated and presented at just the right time using the right interfaces in classrooms. And we can do that with meta-tagging, we can do it with teachers' cooperation, and we don't have to scare everybody to death or replace anybody to do it. So I welcome the chance to collaborate with all of you. I want to thank you all again for this incredible thrill, and I think I've won the award on behalf of hundreds of thousands of people even who've made Sesame and Lions possible. So I'm glad to be able to speak for them. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Well done, Chris. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.